Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Startup Heroes. Today we have John and John, both with a last name that starts with C, from Anderson Gutter and Trees, and they're going to tell us about themselves. My name is Chris Wood.
I'm Nate Tucker.
And we have
John Cable.
And Jonathan Campbell.
Yeah.
I go by Junior, if that helps.
We're calling him Junior today. So, yeah. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show, guys. We're excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely excited.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So just start off with just what are y'all's roles in the business? And we'll start with there.
So I'm the owner. I focus most of my time on just trying to stay one step ahead of the tree side. The gutter side runs pretty much without me. And I do a lot in assessing tree situations, selling the tree work. And I love to jump in and do some of the climbing still too.
Yeah. I am the marketing and communications manager over at Anderson Gutter and Tree. I do pretty much all of the social media marketing and, just overall big picture marketing stuff, along with, reaching out to potential candidates for jobs and stuff like that, and kind of fill in where as needed. And like John said, I do enjoy cutting down some trees as well and getting in the field. So any chance I can get in there and work with my hands is a fun day out of the office. So
yeah, that's awesome. So elephant in the room. Who's Anderson?
Oh,
I love this story. So.
Usually I charge a beer for that. But, what's funny is it's so irrelevant now, and you're probably too young, Nate, to remember there's this thing called the phone book.
Oh, I remember like sitting on them, having like the kitchen table.
Yeah. So back in the day, roughly 20 years ago, that was like an important marketing tool. Like, I don't know when the last time I've seen one is now, but in that day and age, my thinking was I want to talk to people first. And at the time I went by Barefoot Gutter and Rooftop Services. And it was like 5:02 p.m. on deadline day for the year to get your ad in or your basic listing in. And I just wanted to be top of the alphabetical list. So it's like 5:02 p.m. I'm flipping through. It's like gutter cleaning. Oh, Arcadia Exteriors. I have no idea who they are. I've never heard of them again. But at that moment, I saw Arcadia Exteriors, and the lady noticed the pause, and she's like, getting kind of pressing me for time a little bit. And she's like, "Sir, and I need your business name. And if you say Acme, A1, ABC, or AAA, I'll need to see proof of it on your business license." So I stuttered for a second and just spit out the first thing that came to mind that was alphabetically ahead of Arcadia, and Anderson popped out. Maybe I'd worked for Anderson that day, but that's it.
That's awesome. And how long ago did you start, Anderson?
That was about 20 or 20 and a half years ago.
Okay. That's awesome. So obviously you've been doing this for a while. You have some really cool contracts that you've told me about. What made you decide to bring on a marketing communications specialist and see about this other sphere of marketing that maybe you hadn't tapped into?
Yeah, great question. So, as any business owner that's growing through leveraging employees to help increase their reach, the name of the game is take off hats, as many as you can, as quickly as you can, as aggressively as you can. And it wasn't until sometime last fall where we really actually had to do much proactively for marketing. And so I took a stab at radio and a couple other little things without any results. I ended up joining a BNI chapter and then, starting a BNI chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And then very shortly thereafter, about that time,
I kind of arrived.
Yeah. And we just tried to flesh it out even more.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, historically, I've, been I think mainly lucky and in a good economy, maybe having a couple fewer guys to keep busy, but we're just, do good work and word of mouth and repeat business and what I call walk-up business, people seeing. Kind of hard to hide tree work. There's a lot going on.
That's true.
And so that's carried us the vast majority of our career, and only in the last year and a half have we had to be really proactive. So I'm super grateful to have John here, because I definitely don't have the bandwidth to spread myself any thinner.
Yeah. So Junior, what's your background and why'd you decide to join a tree team for marketing?
So I went to school at MTSU and graduated with a video film production degree. Of course, you know, going through that program, you're kind of just like thinking like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, try my way at getting into film. You know, obviously like with the Marvel movies, like Atlanta had become a big film scene with that, and like their state taxing for production. And part of me was just really focused on, you know, getting into movies and stuff. But then funny enough, my senior year, they showed us a documentary about people falling asleep at the wheel, like going home from like working these like 14-hour movie set days. And not to say that was like the main thing that turned me off. Obviously the cost of living and everything just kind of hitting you at once whenever you're, you know, 22 graduating college. But I don't know, after just kind of thinking about that, I realized like, hey, like, and also the boom of social media was happening as well, to where it was just like, why not focus my efforts on something so simple as like social media? Because like obviously, you know, we're in a social media generation that kind of like started, you know, with personalized walls on MySpace and stuff like that. So like, it's kind of something you've known since you've started really, I don't know, growing up. If
being a person in society.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, as you know, as time went by in college, I kind of realized like, maybe that's more of my passion. And I've always been like a very like, just people person. My friends tell me to shut up all the time. So it's like one of those things where you just get so used to talking to people and like having a customer service background. It just kind of all just came together. And so, my last job opportunity, I was able to kind of hone in some skills and learn some things. And then, unfortunately I had to leave there and found John and started working at Anderson Gutter and Tree, and, you know, worked my way through that, started learning tree care. I'd never operated a chainsaw before, honestly. And, kind of learned just in a matter of months, like how not only really cool this industry was, but also just how much there is to learn and how many different pieces of equipment, how much just overall thought process and really like kind of engineering goes into like tree care. And, you know, it's just seeing that and like, I don't know, I was just like kind of blown away, like, wow, this is super fascinating. And so as I kind of learned that, I realized like, hey, like maybe, you know, talk to John and see about, you know, doing some marketing stuff for him. And little did I know, John was also looking for some marketing stuff. And obviously, like he said, like word of mouth, unfortunately, just doesn't cut it near as much as it used to anymore. So it, yeah, just kind of both sides, just shaking hands, getting it done kind of thing. So yeah, we've been going at it, and yeah, honestly, just crafting my skills and getting better and better each day with the marketing stuff. So
do you think it's valuable and important to, if someone's coming in on the marketing side, to really learn the business itself before they try and take on the voice and the branding and all of that? Or do you think you can kind of just jump in without having to do that?
Well, like it kind of depends. Like if like it's a pretty big established company, of course, like they are usually kind of there to have like somebody that used to work marketing beforehand will have a brand guide with like all like the fonts and colors and feels and vibes of the entire company. And like in that case, yeah, like somebody could probably just come in, and especially if they had experience, they could just go ahead and pick stuff up and just be like by the book marketing. But I don't know, for me, like I think genuinely like it really is beneficial to come in and just like, I mean, look at Undercover Boss, for example, right? Like, I mean, that show has a lot of funny things in it, but I think what the CEOs kind of realize is like, oh, wow, these people are really going through it, but they are like really pushing themselves to get whatever is needed done. And I don't know, I feel like once you kind of learn the basics and you go through it yourself, you really come to appreciate, you know, not only what you do, but also just in a way, speak the voice of the person working in that field, as well as kind of knowing how to market what you can and can't do.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting correlation between leadership and marketing. I think it's really hard to be empathetic and sympathetic for someone if you've never done what they're doing, both as a person and a job. And as owners, it's like, of course, you've done most of it because it was just you, and then you bring on teams to do stuff. With marketing, it's a similar dynamic where I think content is so much better when the person making the content has been the person they're making the content about, because they have that side of it where, like, there's so many super niche, only funny to certain people content out there. Like on my wall, it's barista oriented. Mm-hmm. And I show my wife the video and she's like, "That's really funny for you." She's like, "I get why that's funny for you. It's not as funny for me." But it's one of those things where that very specific thing, and it just makes you be able to kind of tie yourself and make it more of a like cohesive brand, instead of trying to, like, from an outside perspective looking in, be like, well, they probably feel this way, or they probably do this thing. So I think that's huge. Yeah.
Authentic, it's grounded in reality. Mm-hmm. And especially when, as Junior did, he's creating the role from scratch. It's like, this has got to be done. Mm-hmm. You've got some relevant experience. You kind of want to do that stuff. Okay. Ask me questions as they come up, figure it out.
Yep.
You know, on top of that, having someone come in that you've worked with, you've got the trust, you know how they operate. So you know that when they come up against something, or they're not sure how to represent, you know kind of how they're going to approach that challenge, and trust that they'll come to you or come to whoever they need to get the answer.
Definitely. And I mean, like you said, like authenticity is so hard to come by these days, especially with larger corporations and companies. B, like I think that, you know, one thing that a lot of good companies local do is they really, you know, touch the community in a sense that, like, they speak to their interests, or like their day to day, what they see. So it's like a really like identifiable type thing. So yeah, really, like whenever I'm like posting to social media, or, you know, thinking of what we're going to market next or how we're going to market it, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's good to have that like authentic voice rather than just like the typical suit and tie, like, "We'd love to tell you about our interest rates," or, you know, something like that that's just less personable.
Yeah. What I want to dig into real quick is, so you said that he's kind of building out his position. I've had some similar instances like that with even Nate here, and Michael. So what has that experience been like for both of you, and what are some kind of pain points, but then some really cool things that have come about from kind of building out a position with the person themselves that's taking it over?
Yeah. I think what's neat in that it works is, like, I think we both want to be accountable to the other. It's like, I feel guilty for not being available enough or clear enough. You know, don't exceed, spend this, or make sure that you know, represent us, whatever it is. Like, I think, you know, I think there's a reciprocation that just makes it work amidst, you know, the lack of contact at times, you know, in a given day or even a given week, busy week. Yeah, I guess just through the uncertainties.
Repeat the question for me.
Yeah. So what has been some of the pain points or maybe hard parts of this process? And then what are some things that you think are happening only because of this process on the cool end?
Gotcha. So yeah, like I'd say, obviously, like one of the great things about, like, obviously kind of creating your own role is genuinely, like, you know, that you're like, not to say that I don't want to be here for a long time, but as you kind of like create a roadmap for that next person. So it just kind of further instills success for the employer. So like, if, you know, God forbid, if I were to die today, you know, someone would be able to come in and figure out like how to accomplish the role, whether that be like, you know, a password list, or like something as easy as like a brand guide to kind of tell our voice, which, you know, is something that I've been meaning to work on. But
we call it the school bus phenomenon. What happens if you get hit by a school bus?
Mm-hmm. That's
important for that, and also for owners.
Yeah.
First on the checklist, don't die, Junior.
Yeah.
Don't want to replace you.
Shout out Regina George, you know, but yeah, no, I think that's really important to have that kind of set up. Cause it just further legitimizes your business from an outsider looking in, because obviously with millennials and a lot of the people that are searching for jobs right now, it seems like a big point is that you want to go somewhere where what you're doing matters and like you see like an impact not only on yourself but also your employer. But yeah, I mean, as far as like what John said about the accountability thing and stuff like that, like it has helped me working with him in the field, doing, you know, the grunt work, if you will, for him to kind of see my work ethic and see how I operate on just a daily basis with everything. So coming in, it's been fun to be able to create that, but also it's a lot of pressure because obviously this being kind of like my second marketing role, you just want to make sure you do everything correctly. And you know, it's not always going to be, you know,
it's
like
art, not a science.
Yeah. Like you really have to test things in what we do, like, especially when it comes to like using the right keywords and doing the right demographics on a Facebook ad and stuff like that. So, yeah, like I find myself asking for permission a lot. Like I think of it as funny sometimes, but at the same time, it's just so needed because this day and age, people can unfortunately really screw you on that front. And with the whole work from home market, obviously the common misconception is like, oh, you're just at home playing video games, you're not actually doing work. But like, I don't ever want to be seen as that. And I think a lot of people that work in that, you know, environment also don't want to be seen as just not doing anything because, you know, where we work matters to us and what we do with that work and for the employer, it does matter too. So.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a lot of trust that is important and mutual respect. I think that's huge. All right, so last question for the origin story part, but John, why are you an entrepreneur? Why don't you work for someone else? Why
right? So that's, wow.
It could be so easy.
Yeah. I just stubbornly.
Why are you doing the hardest job out there?
If I'd have known, I would never have signed up for this. Yeah. So the answer is just a stubborn desire to not work and be subject to what comes with working for someone else. And I had no idea what I was raising my hand for and signing up for.
Yeah, they don't really talk about most of the not as fun parts of entrepreneurship.
I think Simon Sinek actually said it best when he just said, just roll with it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. He never said that.
No.
But I would imagine if he had a book on that, which he probably does, because, you know, that man's smart and writes a lot of books, he would just say, just run with it.
He'd probably say also that it is really hard, and if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, probably don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm lucky I'm a people person, because I'd have given up way long ago if I wasn't motivated by others and impacting others. I guess one interesting thing, it never started out as, it was avoiding having to be subject to working for someone else, like in case I didn't agree with them and I was, you know, just felt convicted to do it a certain way.
Yeah. I mean,
or a certain thing. Yeah.
Me and Doug, my business partner, both for maybe slightly different reasons, but similar reasons why we started our own business. His is he has an issue with authority, and mine is I don't think that my most of my bosses, no disrespect if you're listening, ex-boss, I don't think most of them knew what they were doing. So I'd rather be the one to make the mistakes than have to do what someone is doing a mistake of.
Yeah.
You'd rather drive the car rather than ride in the tiny car seat.
If I'm going to die by hitting a tree, I want it to be my fault, not someone else's. Right. Which is probably also a weird psychology thing. And a lot of people probably don't feel that way, but that's just my end is like, I want to be the captain of my own fate. I don't like having to sink with a ship that I would have led to safety and is sinking because of someone else.
Or at least died trying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So, I guess the other big thing for me is that I did not initially envision having employees and growing a business. It was just an alternative to being employed, self-employment. So, but the nature of gutter and tree work is, for the vast majority of what we do, it's not really good, safe, efficient, enjoyable, and I'm a people person, so I don't want to be alone. Kinds of work. So it just, quickly grows to having other employees. So there's It's like, a very, very slow turning of a cruise ship from simple self-employment to increasingly working through others. And that's, I don't recommend doing it unintentionally and very slowly. There's much quicker ways to get to
know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah.
Yeah. Start with the end in mind and be conscious. Like, I just want self-employment. I want a business. Yeah. It's a very hard thing to, you create a lot of friction that gets in your own way when you just slowly transition from one to the other.
Yeah, so moving into your guys' superpowers, I really think you guys are doing stuff that no other business in your industry is really doing, especially in like our area. It's really cool to see how involved you guys are, how dedicated you are to taking on new projects. I think that's really cool. So, Junior, from your perspective, what do you feel is like the thing that makes you in particular different and is helping you guys to really like achieve great things from your end?
So like, I don't know, for me, it's like my video film production background really kind of helped me not only learn the basics, but also just kind of figure out what my kind of shooting style is, like what edits I think that look good. And of course, like in our day and age, like I think what makes me so good in my role is the fact that like I take criticism very well, in the sense that like somebody could say like, oh, that photo sucks or that post sucks. And like, I sure it hurts my feelings, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's not really what it's about my feelings. It's more about like what is working for the company. So, and of course, like a lot of us marketers kind of have that in the back of our head, like, oh, is this good enough? Or is this like, Mr. Beast level type, marketing, or like, and awkward since his company is, getting or like suing him. But you know what I mean? Like it's really just like, for me, what I think set my skills apart is like I've kind of figured out what my personal voice is and what my personal like vibe is when it comes to taking photos and videos. So when it translates to a company, like I like to think that I can adapt in that aspect and kind of put my own personal beliefs aside as far as what looks good and what doesn't, and mainly just kind of cater that to the company that I'm working for.
Mm-hmm.
And with Anderson, I mean, there's a lot of good tree content out there, which sounds so funny to say. Like you think I'd just like be looking at pictures of sycamores all day, but genuinely, like there are a lot of YouTube channels and various platforms where they like post some really cool, all pun intended, cutting edge type posts and videos and photos where it's just like, wow, like something as simple as tree removal looks so badass when I'm watching it on their channel. So just kind of like my marketing mode has always been like, see what they do and kind of, figure out how you could also do it, but just make it your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I often find myself in that space too. The criticism element I definitely relate to. Even I've been doing this for a while. I still have those moments where like if someone says something negative about like a post or something, it feels almost like a personal attack.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's your baby.
Yep.
Like I spent like hours working on that and now you're saying that doesn't look good. So yeah, it can definitely like feel very impactful. So you do have to sometimes switch the hat on of like, okay, their goal here is just to do what's right for the company. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that you're in the right headspace. And what about you, John? What do you feel has made you really like excel in this industry?
Yeah. Gosh, what has made us excel? I think for me personally, it's being very people driven. That's what motivates me. I wish it was as simple as saying I was money motivated. That would be so simple, but it's not. It's not true. That doesn't literally get me out of bed in the morning. It's a commitment to others. And, they say, I'm fond of quoting I don't know where it came from, but the phrase, having a business is like being married and having employees is like having kids. So I'm married with kids. That is the business and the employees. And so, you're trying to do the best you can and continually leave a better place.
OSHA just doesn't like it when you pull out your belt on your employees.
Right. And then, another thing I heard that resonated with me once that I could totally relate to is early on, you're so focused about making sure the customer is taken care of. But then at a certain point, that can actually become a distraction. You've got to take care of your employees and trust that they've got your back, and that if you take care of your employees well enough, they will take care of your customers. You actually have to give that up. And so,
yeah, you've got it. That's definitely something that we've championed over at Becaffeinated, is the idea of what was it you call it, Chris? It's like the trickle down,
upside down, trickle down.
Yeah, which is where like you take care of your employees, they're going to take care of the customers, and then that's going to take care of the owners. Yeah, and it definitely it's rung true. It's the way to go about it. So, do you think being so people driven is also what makes Anderson itself so successful?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, with the start of focusing on the customer, but then kind of, and it's scary. It's scary to give that up and trust, that the employees are orienting themselves the same way as I early was when I was, continually through the whole process, the one dealing with the customer and the situation, being handed to us by the customer to solve. It's scary, and it's really scary when problems happen or perceived problems come up. But that's the challenge. That's the meditation, is to trust that, you've got to have faith that they know how we want to orient ourselves to the customer. We're, at times we're tree focused, but we're more customer focused. It's like, yes, I can speak for the Lorax, but I'm first speaking to your situation, customer. And if the customer says, well, my top concern is a tree, it's like, okay, well, my guys know how to put on the tree hat, the Lorax hat, and speak for what the tree wants here. But oftentimes it's like the customer saying they're moving in less than a year. It's like, well, that's, it's in your best interest not to spend money right now. That's somebody else's, not only their financial cost, that's their decision. Like, you're making someone else's decision.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel like I've often heard you say that the main thing that you guys offer is peace of mind. I think that's really like impressive that you guys have that focus. That's really cool. Well, yeah. So, Chris, do you want to move on to their kryptonite?
Yes, I do. So, John, first I have to point out, you didn't know what kryptonite was last week.
Right. I did have to ask that. Yeah.
So this is for my own curiosity. So never been into Superman or any superhero movies, or?
No, that was the tough, when I was cramming at these questions, looking at these questions, I was like, I literally don't know what superhero I would pick. I'm going to have to say, I'd have to pass that question to Junior.
Point it to the guy whose dad has been like an avid comic book collector since he was even younger than where I am right now.
Well, then, Junior, do you want to give a quick rundown to John of like why kryptonite is crazy important for Superman?
Oh, yeah. So first off, might we also add that I think John is just a big Lex Luthor kind of guy.
Is it because of the hairstyle, or?
Yeah, sorry, John. Lex Luthor is a powerful businessman that is Superman's basically like arch nemesis, who is just like kind of like Batman in the sense that he has no superpowers. He's just very rich.
Yeah.
But he's also like a super genius bad guy. But
who also happens to be bald.
Yeah, he sports the shaved look too. Yeah.
I'll take the bald genius.
Salute. Sure, there you go.
Sure.
But yeah, no, kryptonite is basically the only possible substance that can stop the old Man of Steel, which, is a big deal because, I don't know, you got Superman who can like fly and is impervious to anything, but yet like this one little green gem can make him just like lose all that power and basically die. So
that's what we care about. So looking at you and Anderson as the Man of Steel, you guys are thundering along.
Paperwork.
Yes. So yeah, what takes
anything paper?
What takes the wind out of your
besides
cape?
My scratch pad?
Yeah.
Now, if I got to keep up with that scratch pad, it becomes like the rest of paper.
Yeah. So paperwork is like if it drains you. And
paperwork, and in general, the housekeeping of business, I call it. I'm really good at being like a special operator, being there in real time, making it happen. I'm not as good of a manager, like kind of a
So you've been doing this for about 20 years. What have you done to kind of shore up that weakness and to
You do it.
Yeah. It's a delegation. Yeah.
We hired an administrative assistant.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Was that life changing when you brought on someone to handle that side of the business?
Yeah. And I think my experience has been you have to. Like, you need to do what you're good at, and you need to do what fulfills you and makes you feel alive and happy. And some people supposedly love doing bookkeeping and dotting the T's or crossing the T's, dotting the I's. That's not me.
Yeah.
And even if some of those things could be, it's like, well, I could go do tree sales, or I could go do some one-on-one training or some super high level technical stuff, or I could do something that is, say the most delegatable, or that I really have to tax myself to do. Yeah. Why do that?
No, I agree. I look at it as like an opportunity cost scenario. What am I giving up by doing this right now? So that's a great way to look at it. We recently had one of our old managers come back. She had a child, like a baby, and left for that. And then she's come back and she's working part-time now as kind of an admin assistant. And it's great because I've pushed on to some of these like tedious weekly tasks that I just hate. And she's really good at it, and she can do it wherever she wants to do it. And it's very nice.
And that could be her jam, her favorite. Like, so what are you taking from someone else? Like, what are you holding back that someone else is like high calling?
Yeah, that's fair. And even when she was a manager, she was the one that kind of kept everyone in line, and she's great at that. And she already was good at pushing back on the owners and the general manager. And now we're like, well, now we want to actually pay you to do that. Like, now it's your job to whip us into shape. She's been doing great, but yeah, that's great.
I just really want to see what her pantry looks like.
Oh, I guarantee you it is labels for organized.
Yeah.
Her degree was in like microbiology or something.
Okay.
So
Yep.
Very much that. Yeah.
Solid hire.
Absolutely. And then Junior, what do you think is your kryptonite? What is your weakness? And creatives tend to have a common one, but I'm curious if it's the same or if yours is different.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, like, I'm guessing I'm gonna guess that the one that you're thinking of is like running out of fresh ideas.
No.
And stuff. No. Okay. Well, that's definitely a kryptonite for me. Like, just trying to find unique, different ways to capture the same service that you didn't do beforehand. And of course, like I talked about earlier, it might just be me being in my head about it and wanting to get the most perfect product out there. But genuinely, like, that can kind of happen. Like, you get in these funks, like same thing with like a songwriter, like feeling like they haven't written a good song in 2 years or so, and trying to get down to the bottom of that and stuff. Like, you do get like writer's block in that sense. But, yeah, I would say that's one of my kryptonites. As far as like, another daily kryptonite, I mean, I don't personally like paperwork either. Even though I don't really deal in a whole lot of paperwork, it's still like one of those things, like, just like, I guess the formalities of like email. And like, so whenever I was in college, I minored in business communications, and come to find out that doesn't really have to do anything with marketing. Really. It's all like, I swear, I just learned how to do block style emails. Like, the whole time I took that minor, but obviously the main effort was, communicating via business. But yeah, the whole formal email things is also something that's just like, I'd much rather shoot you a text or give you a call and kind of talk over things. Cause obviously, being persons or people, mm-hmm. You just kind of, you crave that rather than just, good morning, Steve. Thank you for reaching out.
As per our previous conversation.
Yeah, dude. Like, I respect to all the business OGs out there still doing it, still writing in block style email format, but it's 2023.
Yeah. You're a millennial, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a millennial thing. I think because, like, I know you're not a millennial, Nate.
No.
Yeah. So the three of us, very much, I feel like we'd much rather text or even, God forbid, call. Like, I'd almost rather have a phone call than do an email with someone.
Yep.
And I have multiple degrees that were taught me how to do emails. Mm. I'm really good at them, but like, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'd just rather talk to them, text them, like Discord message, anything other than that. So I feel that. No, actually, so the creative kryptonite that I commonly hear is kind of the organization side of stuff. Like they're a lot of times scattered and coming up with ideas or like, what is the next creative thing I want to do? And then they get to like follow through, or the vision and the excitement usually gets in the way or predates the following through on previous things. So I know we kind of have that struggle sometimes on our end, just because we're always coming up with ideas and they're like, oh no, did we follow through on that one that we came up with like 3 weeks ago that we did like 90% of, and we forgot to just do the final 10%.
And I think with being a creative person, like obviously, you know, the whole statement of everyone's brains work differently, like definitely for creative people, because like I like to think that most creatives, whenever they were growing up, they had clothes on their floor, they had toys everywhere, it was just a disaster in their room. But yet if you ask that creative as a kid, like, where's this, they would easily have some sort of weird wavelength like thought of like, oh, I know exactly where that is because I put it right here under the socks. Like, you know, it's like
definitely when I was a kid and not now. Yep.
And
absolutely.
But it's like, it's just like an unconventional way of thinking, I guess. I would say that's what it equates to. So like,
I call it organized chaos.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's accurate. Yeah. Very accurate. And, I think that can get in the way of the organizational thing too, because like I hate to just keep like poking the bear of big corporations, but like you know, you look at it like a organization's like marketing plan or like, you know, what they've got lined up, and it's like it's to the T. Like it is very detailed, and like me, like as a creative, like in a visual person, like yeah, sure, I like that level of detail, but at the same time, I feel like when you have, if possible, if you have less detail, it really just gives more opportunity for you to just kind of be actually creative and, you know, kind of make it your own thing.
It's like an outline or writing prompt instead of someone already having written the whole paper for you. Yeah, no, that's huge. That's awesome.
Definitely a big deal.
All right, John, with what you know now, what decision would you have made differently with your business if you could go back in time and do so? If any.
So decision, action. Yeah, I guess action is, it took me getting to, as far as getting organized with paperwork, particularly bookkeeping, it took me getting to where that was the bottleneck for me to make sure that I pushed through that goal. So yeah, the importance of being organized with paper, particularly books and financials. And I guess the other big thing would be just not reinventing the wheel. You know, so I mentioned earlier, I started as simply stubbornly wanting to be self-employed and came from a background of rock climbing. So it's like, I'll do stuff at heights. Cool. I got that. Pays better than babysitting. Okay. But, you know, in whatever field it was, or whatever subset of that field, not reinventing the wheel. I'm lucky to physically have survived the learning curve of a lot of what we do, but it can be done a lot more efficiently if one kind of studies under a master. You know, whether that's, there wasn't YouTube when I was starting out, but it could be as simple as YouTube, or it could be working somewhere else.
Yeah, we're huge proponents for working at a place that you want to open before you start your own business. Like Doug and I worked at a drive-through coffee shop for about 10 to 12 months before we opened ours. And that was insanely valuable. And we talk a lot about what would we have done if we hadn't done that? Because there were so many things that came up that like we knew how to get around because we'd been there, and it was somebody else's business that was on the risk. And we were like, how would we have figured that out if we didn't have that experience? So,
yeah. So you worked smarter. I worked harder. Good for you.
Well, and honestly, yours kind of scares me because the worst thing that could happen with us is we like burn coffee or milk or something. Like you have a literal tree fall on you. So
yeah.
What
house or
what did you do when you started to kind of like figure stuff out without dying?
Got lucky, and my Catholic grandma lit some of the expensive candles at church for me.
She paid extra that week.
Yeah. When she told me she would, yeah.
That's awesome.
No, I'm super lucky to have survived as a business and physically. And I highly recommend, and it doesn't have to be something dangerous or even that difficult. I mean, coffee, it doesn't sound that difficult, but you just expressed just how much you learned and how invaluable that was.
Yeah. I think no matter what it is, there's going to be these finesses and these like small details that you don't think about from the outside in. But yeah, I mean, on the coffee side, we have a bajillion variables that go into it. And even this morning, we were trying to dial in our espresso, and we were like I've been a barista for 6 or 7 years, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with the espresso. And you know, we got it to like good enough to sell and palatable, but it's not exactly where we want it. And that's, you know, just a small example of the wide breadth of it. And then you have like everything in the tree side that, you know, what do I cut down? How do I cut it down? How many people do I need?
It could be any industry.
You know? Yeah,
any
exactly.
field. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And I think even if you're like working a full-time job, just going to someone that you want to be when you grow up as a business, like if you want to open, you know, a marketing agency or a tree, whatever it is, going to the business you wish you were, talk to the owner and be like, hey, can I donate 5 or 10 hours a week to you after I work my full-time job to just come and watch everything you do?
Yeah.
And most people would say yes. If they say no, then probably don't want to be them anyways.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, they're doing something funky at that business already.
Yeah, because there's enough to go around for everyone. And but most people are excited to share what they've learned and their knowledge. And yeah, sometimes they might even pay. You know.
Yeah. One strategy I'm fond of and encourage others to do is go to a town. You know, say for here it would be Atlanta or, you know, Knoxville or Memphis, somewhere where you're not competition or you're not about to be competition, and you know, being a tag along for the day. You know, it's like promise to not slow them down. You know, like I'll, you know, be a grunt, whatever. I just want to be a sponge informationally.
Yeah, in the culinary world, it's called staging. So it's spelled like a stage, but staging. And so if you've watched the show The Bear, if you haven't, you should. It's an incredible show. In the second season, one of the chefs goes to stage at a really nice restaurant, and actually a few of them. And that's it's like apprenticing, but you just learn kind of the ropes from that specific restaurant and whatever they do special wise. I mean, that whole concept is endlessly fascinating to me, and like a really good example of that collaborative community environment instead of holding on with a tight grip all of the information you have and not sharing.
Everyone figuring it out on their own.
Yeah.
Especially with something dangerous. Like, my God.
I mean, anthropologically speaking, all civilizations spike in growth when people figure out how to share information well. And you know, it's just the same thing, but micro. Anyways, Nate.
Yeah. So you guys obviously have a lot of cool stuff going on. You were saying earlier, Junior, how you're experimenting now with ads. That's really cool. But where do you see things going? What's like the next big step for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a fun part, like going back to, you know, creating your own job or not creating your own job, but you know what I mean? Writing your own description and kind of like setting that. It's kind of the similar thing for this company because we've, you know, been doing word of mouth marketing and some radio ads, some TV spots. Like we've done that in the past. So like, really, it's kind of like a blank page for me as a marketer to come in. And so like, and of course, you know, before this, I had no experience working with trees. Like I had never done this before. So I didn't really know, or even worked for a service-based industry. Like I'd never really done that. So, the fun has really been just kind of like figuring out what works and kind of just going off with it. So going next, the Facebook, just world as a whole, like obviously like everyone and their grandmother is on Facebook as of 2023, I'd like to imagine. So
especially the grandmother,
especially the grandmothers. Yeah. My mom, she hardly posts about me. I've got 3 nephews and they are all that's getting posted all the time. You should see her house. There's like no recollection of me ever living there whatsoever. But all that to say, it's like Facebook is such a powerful platform in itself because it's slightly becoming like the next Google, because you can obviously put reviews on there. You can find out even an address and quickly put it to your GPS. So Facebook is a big one as far as like, you know, a medium that we're going to be marketing on. I know we are planning on being in the Red Bank Christmas Parade. So that's very exciting. I did find out that I can't throw candy at kids. Not that I would like throw it at them, but I was in the Red Bank Parade quite a bit growing up. And like, I would always look forward to getting candy like thrown at me.
Did they say you couldn't?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
I'll bring it up at the planning committee tomorrow.
Yeah, you should see if you can fix that. But yeah, I guess some softball teams just been like fast pitching like gobstoppers at kids.
It's a liability.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, just obviously like Facebook and more online marketing, but also like genuinely we're trying to be more community based, and we see the importance of being active in the community a little bit more and doing more things to shed light on how great, Chattanooga and specifically Red Bank is as a whole. I mean, I went to Red Bank Middle School and high school, graduated from there. And I don't know, it's kind of neat to be able to say that I'm like also working for a company that calls Red Bank home. So it's kind of like natural for me to want to get involved in Red Bank. 'Cause man, it's a great little town.
It's popping off too.
It's popping.
It's on the up and up.
Yep. So, yeah, I'd say that's what's next.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've definitely seen where you've started tagging Be Caffeinated when you do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting way more involved, diversifying your content. So that's really great to see. And so, John, where do you think you guys are going in terms of just like overall like company growth? What's the big plan there?
Yeah, big plan would be, I think it's cool to see tree care, meaning like looking at trees as assets, something, that one is a steward of, and it's, they're worth investing in rather than just a liability to manage or have to deal with. So it's kind of cool to see the segment of the market that values trees inherently grow. And that allows us as a company to shift and, attend to that demand. To actually care for trees. I mean, you can't replace. I had a tree literally last night, beautiful oak tree that was slotted to be taken down, and there's no real justifiable reason. They were wanting it taken down for the view. And it might come down, in a year when this tenant moves out. The landlord lives across the street and up the hill and wants this tree out of their view shed. So it might come down, but even if we could and we did save this tree for another year, and then it'll be another conversation with that homeowner. But there's other work on that property that helps protect the house even more. That's far less sinful as far as just doing what's right. So I think seeing people realize that these trees are not something that can be easily replaced or replaced at all, ultimately, compared to how quickly we're losing them or they're being taken down for the sake of progress, especially in tight areas like North Chattanooga and increasingly Red Bank, where.
And not to mention, of course, like whenever people think tree service, obviously, I feel like back in the day, tree service, you just think like, oh, some like big old redneck guys that are going to come and like, rip a chainsaw and just cut this bad boy down.
Top all your trees.
Top all the trees. Like
it's good for them. Look, they grow back.
They don't want them. Like we
like
love
that.
We love chopping down. No, like it's transformed into this thing where obviously, like I like to think that everyone these days is a little bit more environmentally cautious in their thinking, just day to day. Whether that be whether they put a can in the recycling bin or whether they pick a product that has recycled materials. The tree service is thinking of that, like the tree care industry, I guess you could say, is thinking more along the aspects of, how can we, like John said, like their assets, not, just a potential falling to a house.
I think
kind of scenario.
The title or label arborist has come up a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like no one really used that verbiage 10, 20 years ago, but now it's, I feel like, much more prevalent.
Yeah, it's like arboriculture. That's the term that arborists work with it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Speaking of all that great tree service, where can people find you guys?
Yeah. So, of course, we are we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. On Facebook, we're Anderson Gutter and Tree. We have two separate Instagrams. We have one for the gutter side and then one for the tree side. I believe it is Anderson Tree _ on Instagram for the tree side, and then Anderson _ gutter for the Instagram side. But of course you can search us on Google, feel free to look at our reviews. We've got all of our reviews posted everywhere. Just to kind of solidify our craft and, we do good work.
Well, we try to be we don't strive to be the cheapest. We strive to be the best overall value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fond of saying, what's a good price in the wrong work?
Yep.
Like I could have cut down this beautiful tree that was slated to be cut down. But at no price was that the right thing to do for that owner, for the neighborhood, for property values.
Mm-hmm.
Like in no way, at no price was that good. That tree was technically could have been objectively valued as an asset. And there's a whole 8-page international standardized document for that, which that tree literally could have had a nearly 6-figure valuation objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
So-
insane. Yeah. So if people want to get work from you guys, what's the best way to go about that? Should they call? Should they go to your website?
Yeah, they can give us a call. I will say I have not learned the phone number by heart, but I know John knows it.
423-314-0573.
Perfect.
Call
Yes.
or text.
Call or text. And then of course, we do have a website. It's guttersandtrees.com. And then we of course have our Facebook and Instagram avenues. Those you can feel free to message us as well. And yeah.
Okay. And before we go into rapid fire, is there any final things you guys want to say about your business?
All I would say is that what I've felt, and whether it's true or not, because I can't speak for the competition, I'm not following them around, but we really try to put the customer first and what really put ourselves in their shoes, what makes sense, what are the priorities, what's driving us being there and why, and how can we best address that? What option or options can we give them that most targetedly, if that's a word, speak to their situation and solve what prompted them to call us?
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing with service-based industry things is obviously whenever people are getting someone to come out, it's kind of a nerve-wracking experience because obviously, me not knowing tree work and everything, I don't know how you would price stuff. So in a similar fashion to waiting for a diagnostic to come back on your car to see how much it would cost, I understand with service industries, it's hard to trust that and how they create that number. But genuinely speaking, like John said, we're in it for the best, relationship possible with our customers. And also, we do take those things that bigger corporations and bigger companies probably don't have as much empathy when it comes to this kind of service. So for us, it's, we're putting the customer first and making sure that we have a good price and a good quality work that, supplies that price.
All right. Fantastic. So now we're going to go into rapid fire. All right, guys. So here we go. So our first rapid fire question. What's your favorite book, business or non-business? Any book. Junior.
Man, that's a tough one.
You pick non-business. Take a business book.
I'm definitely, I don't think I've ever read it. Well, I read one company that I worked for made me read 13 Fatal Errors every manager makes. But what was really awkward was I was reading that book in 2021 and it was talking about a woman and then immediately said, yeah, so she'd make a great assistant. So I think that's something that no one should read. But one book that I recently read that I was really late on and really enjoyed it. I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd, so it makes sense. But Ender's Game, I had not read Ender's Game. Unfortunately, it wasn't a prescribed reading in school. But man, you read that book and you're fully immersed in this whole futuristic world that it legitimately takes you on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we won't talk about the movie because I don't think that got such great reviews. But yeah, no, that's a great book.
You gotta read the sequel, Ender's Shadow. It's even better, I think.
I've heard. Was it Francis Scott Card? Is that his?
I think it's.
Or is it, am I being dyslexic? Is it Scott
I think it's
Francis
Orson
Card?
Scott Card.
Orson Scott Card. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that dude.
You're thinking of Francis Scott Keys. They wrote the national anthem.
Exactly. That's you guys read minds on this podcast, but nah, that's a great book. I fully encourage everyone who is like me and didn't chose to have to read it to read it.
Okay, and what about you, John?
So for business book category, and this is coming from the master of picking up a book and reading the first chapter and then getting distracted by the next best book. that speaks to me the most at that time. But so relatively few books I've made my way through relative to how many books I own or have on Audible. But one that definitely keeps coming to the top of the list is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Way easier said than done, but that's eerie if you've been in business for any amount of time, even though the book is about a girl who bakes pies as her business, how her story of being in business and what she goes through. I mean, I was talking to another business owner, and he's a handyman / renovation contractor. And he literally showed me his arm and he had goosebumps when he was talking about the book and how much it related to him. So I think that book really speaks to the essence of what it takes to go from working for yourself to turning that to where it needs to be, which is owning a business that runs increasingly without you through others, and how to conceptually chart that territory and map that out. Way easier said than done. I am not like the example on that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually have not heard of that book. I need to look into that. Have you read that, Chris? Or
No, but me and Mike were talking about it last week.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so moving on quickly. Okay, who was your biggest influence growing up? Junior.
I'm gonna need to take a second on that one.
And remember, this is rapid fire.
I'll give you time.
10-second
for me, it'd be my parents. I often say, my mom taught me the whats that are important, and my dad taught me the hows. This is how you do it. This is, from as simple as like when you borrow a tool, you take it back in a better condition than you got it and full of fuel, if it takes fuel. So for me, it was my parents.
Awesome.
I guess I'm going to show my nerdy side once again. Honestly, growing up, being raised on Star Wars, George Lucas, huge influence, just because that man can create worlds that you would not have thought of that could exist, and then makes it movie magic. And right before your eyes, you see just like a whole nother galaxy that it's so thought out with not only its influences and like all the way down to how do the people dress and how do they speak in their native tongue. Like, it's just nuts. That's got to be some insane skill for Mr. Lucas to have. So, yeah.
Okay. And what is your favorite restaurant in Chattanooga?
So this I will say, I'm saying this probably premature because I've only been to this place, I think 3, maybe 4 times, but they have the best, like Asian cuisine I've ever had in the area. And I think you guys have been here because I can tell you guys are cultured men. Han Mi.
Oh yeah.
Han Mi is,
I go there a lot.
Dude, that place.
Korean fried chicken.
The Korean fried chicken.
The
yes.
tteokbokki.
And I'm not going to lie. I've gotten the Korean fried chicken every time. I haven't like gone outside of my comfort level to try other things, but my friends have, and I've gotten to kind of try what they have, and everything I've had there is just phenomenal.
Yep.
Even down to like the weird, and weird not being a bad thing, but the like the soda that's alcoholic that you pour in little shot glasses
Sake?
Instead of just drinking it straight from the bottle. That stuff's
Nice.
super good.
Yeah. So for me, it's, only after you've tried everything at Be Caffeinated that there is to eat and gotten sick of it. I guess if we're putting that aside, so after that, it would probably be a toss up between Southern Squeeze or, clean vegetarian, I think even vegan, and Thai Isan in East Ridge. Good Thai food.
Have you had Yummy Thai yet?
I have not. Where is that?
It's a food truck, but they've been parking in front of the Riverside liquor store on kind of North Shore.
I have
And
to try
they're
that.
building out a brick and mortar at the one North Shore condominium.
Is that Whole Foods?
Yeah, right across the street from that. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and
that.
they're parked like right down the road. It's so good.
They were there on the way to this meeting.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've had Yummy Thai before. It's
It's so good.
really good.
Yeah, as an East Ridger, I love Thai-san. They're so good. Okay, and speaking of, you mentioned Be Caffeinated. What's your go-to coffee?
I like black, anywhere from black to simple latte. I'm pretty basic.
Do we need to name a place like where?
Sure.
Or is it just like coffee drink?
There is only
Coffee
one
drink.
place.
There is only one.
No,
place.
there's not. There's
Well, okay. So, I was telling, I think you guys this story on Friday, but I'm gonna say Be Caffeinated. That's like my favorite coffee shop here in the area. No shame. The Central Park that they took over in Red Bank, I have had many memories going to that Central Park because my mom taught at the old Red Bank High School, then turned Red Bank Middle School. And she would often give my size 14 husky wearing self $5 to $10 to go to the Central Park and get like an after school snack. So I took many walks there, but that you guys coming in there and turning that, shout out Be Caffeinated because I love that location and I love y'all's coffee. It's really good.
I served you last week.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It was delicious. I think it was the hazelnut bliss.
Yeah.
Lord
I
have
put a
mercy.
little extra love in it.
Oh, I could tell. I could tell that. Yeah, I love lattes, which is a newfound love. But I'm gonna be honest. I'm just like John. I'm a black coffee guy, like through and through. I used to be creamer all the time, and then somebody challenged me to drink black coffee 3 days straight, and it's just stuck ever since.
Stays hotter longer too.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Okay. And so, what is your favorite superhero, or who is your favorite superhero?
We'll let John answer first.
Yeah. Well, I discovered in this conversation that it's Lex Luthor.
Well, he's not a
Brilliant bald.
superhero. He's
not?
a super villain.
Yeah, he's a
Supervillain.
bad
Okay.
He's really technically just the villain. Although it depends on if you consider Batman to be a superhero or just a hero. Which is controversial.
And then,
And
of
we won't
course-
get into it.
Yeah. We could get into a lot.
What about Bob Ross making happy little trees?
He's a superhero for
Mhm.
sure. We'll accept
Okay,
that answer.
okay.
Okay, but that that works.
Just knee jerk. If someone held a gun to your head and was like, "You have to tell me your favorite superhero now, or I'll kill you," what would it be?
Oh gosh, hopefully that never comes to mind. Because see, I love all the superheroes, to be honest. But and man, my initial response was a supervillain too. I was thinking Mysterio because that dude always looked cool in the comics. But I would probably say it would have to be like Gambit from X-Men, just because
Oh yeah,
the dude slings cards and they're on fire, and he has a sick bow staff.
and his jacket always is so cool.
Oh, it's
Yep.
dry cleaned, you know.
All right, real quick, favorite song.
Ooh, I'm gonna pass. I like songs that don't have words
Got it.
because I'll be texting or writing, and
Yeah.
I'll start writing what's in the song, and
That's
that's
fair.
frustrating.
Got it.
Jeez. I'd say favorite song, we could probably go really basic as far as like of all time. I'd have to say like Across the Universe by the Beatles. I'm a big Beatles guy, but like more recently, I will say Sunburn Fades by Brista Maroney. It's actually a guy from Knoxville.
Cool.
Who's made it pretty big, played on like the Today Show and stuff like that, but got some good tunes.
Excellent. All right, last question. If you meet anybody alive today, who would it be and why? As in, you could bring them back from the dead and talk to them as well if you wanted.
Oh,
If that changes your answer.
If I could meet anyone that has passed, and it would probably be John Lennon, I guess to go on the whole like
Yeah,
Beatles
Beatles.
track. A, I would
For
just want to ask him like why Yoko, but
Yes.
but B, also just to feel out how that man somehow engineered and wrote some of the most iconic music of all time. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people that are listening to this will probably think I'm not correct in that, but let's be real.
I think it's objectively true. I mean,
It's-
if you look at pure statistics, it is
Mhm.
objectively true.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, the question that is as old as time is Rolling Stones or Beatles, and I think it really tells who you are as a person based on which answer you have. So
yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I could answer that differently every 5 minutes,
Mhm.
but I mean,
depends on how you feel.
This
depends
5
on how you
minutes.
feel. Yeah,
Let's do this 5 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah,
MLK, Gandhi, Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many. I mean, and again, it does depend on your mood. What are you needing?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
That's awesome.
That's one I want to ponder more.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys for joining us for Startup Heroes. And thank you for listening, those listeners out there. A reminder that we do this every week. We release on Mondays. And If you're interested in being on Startup Heroes, just reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, or come hunt us down at Be Caffeinated on North Shore. Again, this was Chris Wood.
I'm Nate Tucker.
And our guests today were
John Cable
and Jonathan Campbell.
Thanks for checking us out, and see you next time.
Yay.